Hello everybody, this is Owen Kapuza from Washington State University. Today I will be talking about Iscariot and how Scott McCloud's understanding comics can apply to this tale for my English 212 class. To start off, the story is about a man named Iscariot and a girl named Carson who has the ability to use the same powers as him, however she refuses to use those powers. Before we continue, I'm giving you all a heads up that there will be spoiler alerts in this podcast, so viewer discretion will be advised. I'll be telling you two things I find interesting about the story and the way things were designed, and one thing I personally didn't like about the story and how I would have done it. I personally don't read that many comics or mangas, but there are many interesting things done with this comic. One such thing is that some pages include some background art, such as broken statues and candles. I think that this is interesting because it gives the reader a question to ask themselves. What do these objects mean and why are they important to the story? Later in the story, you learn that statues are people who were put under some sort of spell, and the candle represents the lifespan of the sanctuary, and as that candlestick shrinks, the sooner the sanctuary will collapse. After reading this, I think this is a unique way of creating foreshadowing for the story without fully spoiling the plot. Another interesting thing that was done in this is the way the panels have been laid out. I personally think that this can affect the way the story is felt and understood, such as the background designs. For example, some pages have a basic left to right, top to bottom layout for simple and basic scenes such as conversations that aren't really that important to the plot. But when something important does happen, the layout changes, such as less but bigger panels to display more action and description of a scene, such as when Iscariot reveals his true intention with Carson, or when Iscariot tells the story of the sacrifices needed in order to keep the magical powers at bay. One thing I personally disliked about the story was how the sanctuary worked, because it left me with a lot of unanswered questions, though they may have been answered in future releases. Some of the things I was confused about: was the sanctuary part of the normal world, or was it its own dimension? In the beginning, the events take place in the past, so does this take place the same time as the normal world, or is it like time traveling? I know I'm asking more theoretical questions than the design questions, but I think leaving the reader with questions afterward can cause major confusion and an unsatisfying ending. I personally would have shown more flashbacks at the beginning of the story to help the reader gain a better understanding of this mystical place. I am aware that most forms of storytelling media leave some unanswered questions to the audience so they'll pick up the next story, but I feel that the sanctuary is one of those big things that needs more detail and explanation to it. The thing I like about the story is the use of color. Throughout this year of schooling, I learned that color can drastically change your view or feeling about something, and this story does it very well. For an example, at the beginning there are flashbacks, which are shown by giving it a yellowish tint, which gives the message of the past. They also use brighter colors to display happier moments and darker blues and shades of purple to show depressing moments. This drastically affected how I felt on certain parts of the story compared to everything just being sunny or night. The final thing I found interesting about this story is the way it makes you question things. Now, I know I just talked about how the sanctuary left me with many questions, but I think this is done a lot better with some smaller elements of the story that weren't so drastic. Two examples that left me questioning was the cardinals. Throughout the story, Iscariot summons a bunch of cardinals, and one question I had is, out of all the birds, why the cardinal? Another question I had was the magic collar or the neck brace. The question I had was, why that rather than a bracelet or a necklace? It's a smaller curiosity questions that make you want to explore further, but without making the reader confused of. Anyway, this is what I think about Iscariot and how Scott McCloud's understanding comics can apply to this story. This is Owen Kapuza signing off, and I hope you enjoyed and have a great day.